And servers were shut down, and UCAD insists no data was compromised. The Russian hackers, fancy bears, wouldn't you know it, are suspected of committing the attack, Joe.
Cheers, Richie.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the BoyleSports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
So get your texts in. We want your thoughts on Ireland. 53106. JP is out there. He will put them all through to me. We will take the pulse of the nation, Kevin Kilban, on Turkey 1, Ireland 0. We will also talk to the brilliant Tim Vickery. Always very good team, as Argentina and Brazil both won at the weekend, and they both play good opposition tomorrow. Argentina play Spain, Brazil play Germany, and we are 80, I think it's 79, but we'll say 80 days out from the World Cup in Russia. Exciting times. So Tim will give us a steer on how both sides are setting up. The Argentinian manager is pretty open about the fact that whatever Messi says goes, and this is all about Messi. He even said, even in training, everything is around who combines well with Messi. I mean, I know it's true, and probably in many ways always has been true, but to say it so publicly, that must make training a bit of a nightmare. You might be Dybala doing very well.
That's the thing. You look at the players that they've got: Aguero, Dybala, Higuain. You know, they've got so many attacking players.
You're in training thinking, I haven't really played any 1-2s with Messi.
You're looking for him. It's like when you're watching Portugal. I was watching Portugal, and Ronaldo scored 2 late on. Everyone on the pitch, they just try and find him. Even the most ridiculous passes, they've just got to try and get him on the ball. And I think it's just that little bit of fear that when they're playing, they must have it. I suppose, and the Messi's there as well. It is about him, and that's what we'll be talking about before the World Cup, won't we? Will Argentina win the World Cup? Will it be Messi that's the man that can then be considered the greatest of all time, if that were to be?
We won't be at the World Cup, of course, Kev. We be in Ireland. I know you'll be there covering from a media point of view. So we're playing some friendlies at the moment. We'll play France in May. For the time being, it was Turkey. In Turkey, I sat down to watch this. I didn't expect much. Even I was disappointed. Even it didn't hit the standards I was hoping for. I don't know. You said earlier on you thought that he was slightly fearful.
I was actually pretty much what you're saying. I was a bit disappointed because I thought there might have been, because I mentioned a bit of the word pressure probably earlier on. You kind of laughed at it, and you're probably right in your analysis of that, really. But there shouldn't have been any pressure on the team. It was away from home, low key international, and it was a chance for a few players to go out and try to make an impression. And that's why we're maybe making such a big deal of Declan Rice's debut. He did well, yes, he did great considering his age, but that was the only thing that we can get a hold of from the match. There was nothing else really to take from the game, absolutely nothing else. Scott Hogan missed a good chance in the match, and I was actually just thinking back, we didn't hardly had a shot, we hardly had anything.
We didn't have a shot on target.
It was true, we had nothing, did we?
So on Declan Rice, because O'Neill was asked afterwards if he could be potentially a Paul McGrath type figure for Ireland, and O'Neill, without wanting to offend Declan Rice, let's not do that, keep him sweet. He said, he was really good, but comparing anyone to Paul McGrath or Roy Keane, I think as well, was used. It might be a bit premature, let's be fair to him, but it was quite exciting to watch a guy playing in the back three step forward into midfield, and actually, you're kind of wondering if at any point in the game Jeff Hendrick is looking over as Declan Rice gets in the ball and has a bit of a go and makes a few runs with the ball into the opposition territory. If Jeff Hendrick is thinking, God, maybe I should do a bit of that.
Well, watching Jeff, I was with Jeff at Derby as well when I had a loan spell there, and I rate him very highly from training with him, seeing him every day on the training ground. But when I've been watching him playing for Ireland, probably since the Euros, it looks to me there's a bit of fear setting. He doesn't seem to play his natural game. He doesn't seem to play the game that he's playing at Burnley. He's not able to bring it. Keith Andrews touched on something. Keith was on with Nathan and Dave on Saturday. It's basically saying that he probably plays a different role as well. He kind of plays as an advanced player, as a number 10 when he's playing for Burnley. So he's a box-to-box player. He's a runner, essentially. He's not the one that's starting to get on the ball and dictate play from a possession point of view. But when he is on the ball, you do feel with him, I certainly feel when I'm watching him, is that he does definitely play within himself. Every one of something that I touched on early on, first touch, always back into play, always back into where the ball's come from, should I say. And
so explain what you mean by that, because everybody will totally understand, but just we're not...
Yeah, well, I'd spoken to Keith about it the weekend. Keith is one player that Keith was very vocal on a pitch. So if would have been when I'm towards the back end of my international career playing at left back, you're expecting a midfielder to come over, demand the ball from you, but how they're taking the ball, sometimes it's not on to always open your shoulder or open your body. We know that, but a lot of the time it is. Drop off your midfield man that's with you. The only real danger you've got is someone that can come from behind you, one of the opposition attackers plays, because he's trying to get you from the wrong side. But in general, you'd have more time than you think. And I just don't see it from our players. Where predominantly, if they're getting it from a full-back, obviously we played the wing-backs at the weekend. Say, for instance, it'd be Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman would play it into midfield to Jeff Hendrick or to Conor Harron or to Alan Brown. The first touch is back towards Seamus Coleman, rather than, my first thought in my mind, take it on your back foot, take it across your body, and then the out ball is James McLean at the far side or a striker's feet. That's not happening enough, and it's not been happening consistently now over the last year or two. It hasn't, and that is one thing where we're seriously lacking of any sort of possession-based football. I'm not saying that we're going to go from, playing the way we are at the moment to all of a sudden being Spain overnight, but we have to try to make passes, and I don't see anyone taking responsibility for that.
Well, for so many reasons, not least because if you're going to go at 3-5-2, in effect it was more of a 5-3-2 a lot of the time. You have to give Seamus Coleman and James McLean time to get up the pitch.
Yeah.
You have to hold the ball for 20 or 30 or 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if you bomb one up to little old Shawnee Maguire up there doing his best, running his heart out,
Scott Hogan, the similar sort of physics.
If you're McLean or you're Coleman, you're not going to set off on a 60-yard run to try and join him when you know he's probably not going to keep the ball.
Yeah.
So the midfielders have to get.
There's probably an element of that. There's probably an element of that, but there's also got to be an element of I spoke about it the weekend. I played the wing back role predominantly when I was in the 21s, and I used to like that role because I used to feel as though that you could actually play a bit of a game with the lad that you were up against. You could say to him, look, I'm going to take a chance here. I'll play the wrong side of you. Try and take a risk at times.
Try and pin him back.
You've got the support behind you anyway. And at the weekend, you said the 5. The 5 did definitely become a 5 without the two, James McLean or Seamus Coleman, ever really able to get in advanced positions. And that's what was killing it really at times as well, because it was. I understand it from James McLean's point of view. Even when I went to left back, you kind of play overly cautious because you don't want to take that chance, because you're not natural in that position, I suppose. Where I feel as though that James McLean, he's certainly got the attributes to play that role, and I think if he starts to learn it, he could actually go on and have a decent career.
He's made for it because he's so athletic. He can get up and down. Lads, at this stage we know Martin and Roy don't really do much in giving the team any kind of tactical master plan. So why were we expecting anything different against Turkey? Same old, says Sean. Hard to argue with that. Fear and being afraid of making a mistake is the major inhibitor of creativity and positivity that you can have in any sport or business or facet of life. Players are clearly afraid of putting their necks on the block and trying something, says Gavin in Roscommon. So Gavin mentions fear, you mentioned fear. Jeff Hendrick has played his best football for Ireland at the European Championships. Yeah. So if we're going with the fear thesis, which I don't agree with, I don't think it's fear. I think it's that the players don't have a plan, and I think it's that they're not being told what to do. No, hang on, let me just finish. Yeah. If we're going with the fear thesis, then Jeff Hendrick should not have played some of his best football for Ireland in knockout tournaments against France. I know he got wrecked as the game went on, or against Sweden where the stakes were high. So I don't buy the fear thing. Fear of what? Yeah. Fear of what in Turkey? Well,
I know. That's maybe my argument. You can put my argument to bed on that, but we've seen it consistently, particularly in the games in Dublin, the bigger matches, when we've had the big games coming into town. That fear. Well, I use the word fear because I think that it's just play within yourself. The caller there said no one prepared to take a chance, and no one maybe they do feel inhibited a little bit. I do feel that you can almost sense it on the pitch. If I see Jeff Hendrick when he's playing for his club, I see him taking the ball. I see him being prepared to bomb on beyond, whether that be Ashley Barnes or Wood, who's up front. Any one of those players, he's prepared to do that. Yeah. Whereas he's rather playing from behind the ball constantly. He's constantly just looking to try to get into support. And you mentioned earlier on where that long ball that goes forward, we're that deep, we're not able to go and engage. So when that ball's sort of pumped up forward, you're kind of making that run into no man's land because you're just going to get passed around again.
So then, to round off what is the same grim conversation we have to have, and we've had for the last 4 years, let's round that around to, okay, you're the manager of the team, you're looking at Jeff Hendrick. you're saying, and your assistant manager, who was one of the best midfielders of his generation, are saying to each other, we're not quite seeing the same guy we saw at Euro 2016. Let's sit down and have a chat with him.
Yeah.
So, clearly that's not happening. Clearly no one is saying, Jeff, every time you're either not showing for the ball, or when you do touch the ball, you're taking it back towards the full back. We want you to be a bit braver, turn around, open your body. You need to get us playing.
I'm sure, knowing Roy Keane and playing alongside him, and the demands that he puts on teammates as well, I'd be convinced that Roy is in some sort of way will be telling him or advising him one way or another to try to get on it and pass forward, take the ball, because his big thing was always to everyone on the pitch, take the ball,
Roy's
take the ball, take the ball, everyone, so, and I think he used to bring the best out of the teams that I would have played in alongside Roy for that reason. Lads taking the ball, maybe perhaps taking a chance that they might have just clipped it forward at times, but you might take that extra touch, you might actually look to go and pass inside. So I'd be amazed if that's not the message he's getting. I would be. I just maybe feel as though the fact is it's
not translating onto the pitch.
No, it's not. It isn't. And
because that 2002 team, broadly speaking, the Mick McCarthy teams, I thought had a really good blend of pragmatism, playing to our strengths, and also getting on the ball. It was a nice blend. It was pretty effective.
Yeah, I think it was. I think of the Kinselers. I think of, aside of Roy, Matty Holland, even Lee Carsley, when they would have been the other midfielders that predominantly would have played around that side that time as well. All lads that were prepared to take the ball. No, people might have criticised them at the time, but I tell you something now, the level that they were playing then was certainly way above the level that we're seeing now from the midfielders in general. And again, I'd probably go back to the point, is it's that little bit of feeling inhibited. That's the way it looks to me. That's the way it looks to me when I'm watching them.
Does it strengthen the argument that Declan Rice might end up playing midfield for Ireland then?
Yeah, I could see that. Because he's, again, prepared to take the ball, prepared to take a chance. You said that. Drive forward.
Do something.
Exactly, do something. He did, and our midfielders, I've found over the last couple of years, whether that's in possession or out possession, they're not necessarily in positions to go and engage because of the positions that they're in, deep lying at times. So when the ball's cleared, as I was saying before, they're not able to then get up near the midfielder. So it feels as though they're being passed around continuously. They're not able to get on the ball because they're maybe a little bit too deep as well. So I don't know. That is a concern. Definitely is a concern. I still feel as though that, look, it's great to get Alan Brown game time, Conor Horan game time, Declan Rice, Alan Brown, Sean Maguire, Scott Hogan, all these lads getting game time was great. It's great that they've actually now got more game time. The lads that hadn't played before got some game time. But Daryl Hogan as well coming off the bench. I think these lads, Matt Doherty as well, another one, these lads need to get that experience of just that bit of a thrill, playing for your first time or getting more game time. And then in what we're hoping for, when the serious games start, this game has served its purpose for that reason, that they've got some game time.
I just don't buy any of that anymore. I really don't. Like, Declan Rice didn't need game time. Just go out and play. Like, I just become
he did that, didn't
sick
he?
of this team in so many ways. And look, it's a friendly. You're bloody new players. I understand that, but it was just like, it's another 2 years of Martin O'Neill doing his thing. That's just what it is. And the team are going to go out with any kind of pattern. Like Richie Sadlier made a very fair point on television, and it wasn't unreasonable to point out that during the week Martin O'Neill had said that he wanted to get the wide players involved.
Yeah, he spoke about that to Tony before the game, didn't he?
That's part of the plan here.
Yeah.
And Sadlier said on the coverage, it was either half time or full time, but he said, I haven't seen one instance of play or one pattern of play where the team have been working towards getting the ball out wide,
an end goal,
to a player in a decent position. And so you throw your hands up a bit and say, is Martin O'Neill saying this to Tony O'Donoghue because he's just said it to the team after naming the team? Have they worked on it all week in training and the players have let him down horribly and forgotten that they're meant to work the ball to a certain position on the pitch? I mean, I'd love the answers, but whatever's breaking down, it's breaking down.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. When certainly that was what he was expressing before the game. Yeah, we want to try and get, certainly when you've got players, two good attacking wing backs that we've got there with good energy, they can get up the pitch. And I said before, I think with James, I just think he played within himself. He's playing a newer role. He's played it before, but hasn't played an awful lot in that position. So you kind of become overly cautious with it. But I think there's an element as well, even from the touchline. The touchline, it used to be the worst nightmare as a player when you were on the manager's side as a winger, because the manager would be constantly in your ear giving you instructions throughout the match. So there was a chance there for Martin O'Neill maybe to get into James McLean or Seamus Coleman's head, whichever half it was, whichever side he was on. Take that chance, be a bit more advanced, get in advanced positions, and that in turn then he's then barking a message inside. Look, get the ball out here to me, so then when it gets laid into Jeff Hendrick, it's in his mind, or whoever it will be, that they can switch play knowing full well James McLean's free.
It's funny, one of the few times McLean had a really good moment in the opposition half was after Declan Rice had taken control of things. Like, it just, it didn't look to me, that's what makes the Hendrick thing so frustrating. Like, Declan Rice can't have known any more than Hendrick what he was doing. If the team was named an hour beforehand, and Rice himself said he didn't know he was playing until an hour beforehand, and he certainly didn't know he'd be playing in central midfield in the second half, you'd have to presume, he still managed to cope with the situation and do a few things. It doesn't have to be the complete performance, but just do a few things. And you saw the lovely Hendrick pass for Hogan. Brilliant.
It was class.
So, we would take 6 mistakes and 4 good things across a match.
I think that's what this game actually had the chance to do. Make the mistakes, go and try things, go and try to just change things up a little bit, be prepared to take the ball, because realistically we're not going to get too many certainly games like that where there's less pressure, or they're not really pressurised games. That's what that game in Turkey could have served that purpose for, and it just didn't.
No, so not a new era.
Well, no, we'll see. I mean, again, I'm hopeful just with the lads that got the new caps, lads that got a little bit more game time that have only got 1 or 2 caps themselves. I think it served the purpose of that. They've got more time around the squad, getting to know each other a little bit on the training ground. That's what you're hopeful for. But certainly on the pitch, no, we didn't see anything new, I suppose. No, change of system, yes, but not a change of style. No.
No, or intent about the team. And one final point is Declan Rice. Let's hope. I mean, it seemed like he was very moved during the anthem. He said he was thinking about his grandparents in Cork during that. His dad was there.
Dad's a big fan, apparently a big Irish fan as well, so he would have been brought up with that.
So it is extremely unlikely, I presume, that Rice is now not Irish.
Let's not go there on this one. Let's not go there on that one.
I mean, even if Gareth Southgate calls him in the morning and says, "Do you know what I watched? It was bloody good. I want you."
Let's not go there. Let's not go there on that one.
Okay. Richard Garland says Hendrick's been ineffective for Burnley for a few months now also. It's not only for Ireland that he hasn't been playing well. Lads, is it possible that the lack of a cutting edge goals does inhibit the midfield from being positive? We need a goal scorer. Mark Lyons. I mean, maybe to a point, but like Scott Hogan made a great run for the Hendrick ball, so you'd feel we could have done that 1 or 2, 3 more times. It didn't feel like Turkey midfielders were putting the Irish midfielders under colossal pressure.
No, I didn't feel that myself. And sometimes it takes you've almost got to watch back that game, watch back the game yourself, and see the mistakes that you were probably making. And that's what I mean. I would have preferred to do that myself. If I've come off and I've thought I've not had a decent game there today, go and watch it back and see. You'll get a bit more of an idea in your head what mistakes you were making.
Oh, good. I thought you were suggesting we watch it back.
I'll leave that one for you.
Yeah, I'll leave that one for you.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Tim Vickery next. So we're 80 days out from World Cup. The Brazilians and Argentinians were in action over the weekend. Argentina beat Italy. They play Spain tomorrow, and Brazil beat Russia 3-0. And they play Germany tomorrow, so we'll check in with Tim and see how things are shaping up with Argentina and Brazil.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the BoyleSports app. Cash out and in-play betting available in the App Store and Google Play Store.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, 17 hours, the new direct service to London is the longest single flight you can take from Australia. Qantas CEO Alan Joyce will be joining us. Is the Ballymun Regeneration Project an attempt by the state to educate a community in line with ruling class thinking? Amy Lloyd on her new book The Innocent Wife, and taking a pilgrim path in Easter week. Jessica Kelly also will be in Paris to preview the Huawei P20.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
Hi, my name is Gary, and I've come through some really difficult times in my life. I started to run small little amounts. It was slow, but it was great. Running, it's my be-all and end-all in terms of managing my mental health.
When we go through tough times, little things can make a big difference to your mental health. Visit yourmentalhealth.ie. Brought to you by the HSE. When that niggling pain builds into something that makes it difficult to even think straight, try new Salpa Extra. With its dual-action formula of paracetamol and caffeine, it treats pain fast. Because it's soluble, Salpa Extra gets to work 2 times faster than standard paracetamol tablets, based on absorption data. For pain, think new Salpa Extra. Acts fast so you can get back to life. Ask your pharmacist for advice. Salpa Extra soluble tablets for the treatment of mild to moderate pain. Always read the leaflet.
I think we should break up.
But I just got your name tattooed on my...
With our car insurer. I've signed us up to Super Value Insurance and got 25% off our car policy when I added you as the named driver.
Another reason to love you.
It's really, really true. As well as great prices and savings, Super Value Insurance gives you loads extra, including 1,000 real rewards points on your card and money off vouchers to spend in any Super Value store. Just call 1-890 11 11 11 or go online for the same great rates at supervalue.ie/insurance. The big insurance breakup from Super Value Insurance. Offer extended to June 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Up to 25% applies when your partner is the only named driver, holds a full Irish or UK licence and is claims free for 5 years. Super Value Financial Services DAC, trading as Super Value Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
So as part of the weekend, we thought we would check in on Argentina and Brazil, both in action as well tomorrow. Argentina beat Italy 2-0 at the weekend. They play Spain tomorrow, and Brazil outclassed Russia 3-0 in the end, 3 goals in 13 minutes, and they will play Germany tomorrow. So Tim Vickery joins us on the line. Tim, I can't tell you how upset Kevin Kilbane was when he turned up to the Etihad and saw Lionel Messi was in the stands.
Yeah, although I think that's let's save that for the World Cup. And Argentina know that they have Lionel Messi, but they're still, with 80 days to go to the World Cup, not entirely sure how they're going to line up. You know, we're still at the experimental stage, and that's worrying. The coach Sampaoli, he came in for the last few rounds of World Cup qualification. What he wants to do is press high in the opposition half. In his previous games, he's gone with a back three and run into serious problems. The defence absolutely collapsed in their previous game against Nigeria last November. Nigeria, who they will be meeting in the World Cup. They had 3 big problems. The midfield not pressing, the back three not having any pace and dropping deep, and with no real wing backs, he was using wingers in that role and expecting them to run back 80 metres and defend at the end of it. Really didn't work. So what we saw against Italy was back to square one. Let's start something else. Let's have a look at something else. So he went with an orthodox back 4 with 2 relatively untried fullbacks, Bustos at right back, Tagliafico at left back, and it was okay. Midfield pressed a little bit better. They were better in possession. You do wonder about those fullbacks. Italy weren't very good. You know, you saw a shell-shocked side who hadn't qualified for the World Cup, which means that tomorrow against Spain is absolutely fascinating, because there you've got 2 sides who couldn't be more different. You've got Argentina still looking for an identity, and Spain, who've got this very, very well set identity. Everyone knows what Spain are going to do. And it looks as if he's going to go with those same fullbacks again. So how will they cope? This is an important game for Argentina's morale. If the defence falls apart and they really get a chasing against Spain, then they will go to the World Cup with their tail between their legs. If they can come out with a result, then perhaps there's something that they can build on, and maybe there's a chance they can house Messi in a coherent structure, and that's been their problem for a number of years now.
Yeah, I think, Messi, of course, we know he's a certain starter in that side, but how does he try to fit in all those attacking players that they've got? You know, Higuain started the other night, but of course, no Icardi. He doesn't look like he's going to be part of anything. Aguero, Dybala, will he go as well? I don't know, Tim. These are the big ones. He's got so much attacking talent. It is that defensive side you maybe do worry about, but how does he fit all those attacking players into the side?
Well, the first thing he did when he took over, he went with Icardi and Dybala. And quite frankly, it wasn't even mediocre. It was just dreadful. It was awful. And Dybala has said that he's finding it very hard to play in the same team as Messi. And that sincerity might mean that he misses out on the World Cup altogether. He could go perhaps as Messi's reserve. I can't see him in the same starting lineup as Messi. In terms of Icardi, I think it's looking bad for him because there'll be one centre forward. And the likelihood is, if they're all fit, it will probably be Aguero. I think Higuain did well, led the line well against Italy, and has got himself now in contention. And the other one is the new kid on the block, Lautaro Martinez of Racing, who is kicking up a big storm in South America and has just got into the squad for the first time. So it's looking bleak for Riccardi. So one centre forward, Messi behind, Di Maria wide left, someone else kind of wide right, and it was Lanzini who started off in that role and did pretty well against Italy. And I think that's the structure. But and you're right, it's more attacking talent than you can shake a stick at. If only some of these players were centre-backs, they could almost name their price.
I was looking at a Sampaoli press conference recently, Tim, and he said two very striking things. Initially, he talked about how effectively this team is completely about Lionel Messi. He's the best player in the world. We're lucky to have him. And he said, even in training, he said Messi takes on a decisive importance, and not just in terms of how we build our structures, but also, and that ties in with your point on Dybala, also how other players relate to Messi. So, I've never seen a coach come out effectively and talk about one player in these terms just so openly. It may have been true, of course, in teams in the past, but he was just so open with the media about the fact that this whole thing and all his thinking revolves around Messi. And then he's written a book which is coming out in April as well, which is being serialised, and he talked about the World Cup and Messi. He said the World Cup is a revolver put to Messi's head. And he said Messi has a revolver put to his head called the World Cup, and if he doesn't win it, he's shot and killed. As a result, he can't enjoy his talent. It's difficult, and this was the other interesting point, it's difficult to assume a level of control when your leader knows he's better than you. So in absolutely every way, and in being as transparent as possible, Sampaoli is down on bended knee to Lionel Messi.
Yeah, I mean, some bright spark last week when the sticker album came out. Bought the sticker album, bought his first few stickers, and he got one from Argentina, and that was Lionel Messi. So he took a photo and he said, "Look at that! I've already completed the entire Argentina team." It is a statement of fact. So when you take away Messi, Argentina wouldn't have come near qualifying, and that's how much of a shambles they were during qualification. And this is Messi's last World Cup and his peak years, and he might just make 2022, but he'll be 35 then. So it is kind of last chance saloon for him. And Sampaoli has said something else, which I think is perhaps even more honest. He doesn't really want to play these games. Didn't really want to play Italy. Doesn't want to play Spain. He's certainly, no way does he want to break training camp in Barcelona and go to Tel Aviv to play Israel early in June. Doesn't want to play any of these games because he wants that time on the training field. And that shows you the state where Argentina are. We're 80 days to go, and he desperately needs time on the training field to work out how they're going to play.
Just this last one on that one then, Tim. Is going to a back four the other night, is that suggestion now that is the way forward for Argentina? They will not revert back to the back three the way that Sampaoli actually does want to play?
I don't think he's got enough pace to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been his big problem. And how can you press up opposing half with a slow back three? A back four gives you that little bit more compactness, that greater cover. And can you honestly, Kev? Can you honestly imagine Fazio in a back three? You just can't see it. And so I think it's an admission of defeat, really. And an admission that the collapse that they suffered against Nigeria is something that could easily happen again in the World Cup if they go with a back three. So I think the back four is perhaps his more conservative option, but I think given the lack of time, it's probably the best one he can come up with.
What do we know, Tim, about the relationship between Messi and Sampaoli, who he's an experienced coach and was in Chile? The way it reads is that Messi is literally calling every single shot, and Sampaoli has no issue with that whatsoever.
No, I mean, Sampaoli said, remember, he's in the Champions League with Sevilla. He's done the international team thing. He's taken Chile to their first ever silverware. So where has he got to go after that? Well, you're in the Champions League. You're doing well with Sevilla. He's linked to the Barcelona job. And Sampaoli made it very clear that he took the Argentina thing for one reason, that he could work with Messi. So that shows you that where the hierarchy is in that side. I think Messi's aware that this thing of the World Cup. I mean, I read in an editorial in a Brazilian sports paper last week Messi failed dismally in the last World Cup. You're thinking, what on earth does he have to do? He dragged a fairly tired and mediocre team through to the final, with his own little flashes of brilliance. And he clearly, and this was Argentina's big problem, I think, in the last World Cup. They were a side built around individual brilliance. They didn't have a great deal of defensive consistency in qualification, but they had Aguero, Higuain, Di Maria and Messi all firing together in qualification. You come to the World Cup, and all of them at the end of the European season are just dragging weary carcasses around the field. And Argentina couldn't do that anymore. They couldn't play tit for tat, so they had to go deep defence and just rely on flashes from Messi, who was nowhere near fully fit. I was in the stadium for a few of Argentina's games, and it often seemed like he was like wandering around the centre circle with his head bowed, looking for his dropped wedding ring or something, saving himself for those little bursts when he could make a difference. I really hope for him and for this World Cup that he arrives in Russia physically better than he was in Brazil 4 years ago.
Yeah. So Brazil, meanwhile, 3-0 winners against Russia, scored 3 goals in 13 minutes. It seems like Chichi has come in and done a really good job. What is he up to? When he came in, a third of the World Cup qualification had been played. Brazil were in 6th place, and since then we're talking about 10 wins, 2 draws, 30 goals scored, 3 conceded. It looks like he's doing a remarkably good job.
Yeah, he's a class act. No doubt about it. He's a class act in tactical terms, and he's a class act in terms of man management. And he studied long and hard European club football. And you might remember his Corinthians side that beat Chelsea to become World Club champions a few years back. They were very compact. He picked up the compactness there. Subsequently, he studied more, and he's worked out how to achieve numerical superiority in vital areas of the field, and he's got them flying. And he needed to work in that game against Russia because the stakes were reasonably high. The standard in qualification for Brazil, the standard of opposition wasn't great. It wasn't the greatest crop of South American sides. No one was really happy with their form. So, your test comes against the Europeans. They come to Wembley, November. They get held 0-0 by very defensive England, who could have snatched it at the end. Against Russia last Friday, first half was a similar story. Russia are very defensive. Brazil have most of the possession, but you can't see where a goal's coming from. And the longer the first half wears on, Russia are beginning to become more dangerous on the break. So you project that to the end of the game, and then you're a little bit worried about Brazil's morale coming away from a second disappointing display against European opposition. But he just tweaked his positions at half-time. Put Douglas Costa, who's in for Neymar, put him out wider. So there's a channel there cutting inside for Marcelo, the attacking left-back, and getting Felipe Coutinho up in and around the penalty area, combining with the centre-forward Gabriel Jesus. And once he got it right, the ball starts flying and Brazil were irresistible. And the player who really comes up big then, which might be a surprise to Premier League watchers, is Paulinho. Yeah. Who and you don't expect him to spray the ball around from the centre of midfield, but there aren't many better at timing the run into the box, at finding space into the box. And in that 15-minute spell, and he scored 1, he was brought down for a penalty, he had 2 point-blank saves from the keeper. That's that's a player whose virtues come out to shine when the collective balance was right, and it was after half-time. So Brazil come away from that, a morale-boosting 3-0 win. And we'll bring on Germany tomorrow night.
Yeah, I only caught the first half of this, Tim, and you look at the team on paper, the talent that they've got. You mentioned there Douglas Costa, Gabriel Jesus, Philippe Coutinho, and people like this, and you see in that side then, if you then can put a Neymar in there, if Neymar's fit, you're seeing a seriously strong side. But he was the one that you mentioned there, Paulinho. I mean, yeah, I thought he should have had a couple of goals, but the role that he's got within that side, you say there, it's almost if Coutinho can do the build-up play. He can be the one that drops a little bit deeper to get them firing, get them playing, and his arrival, his timing of his runs and his arrival in 6-yard box a lot of the time, that's where he's getting himself into positions. It's a great watch when you see them doing that.
Yeah, you remember the old balance of a midfield in the old days.
Yeah.
One to get it, one to give it, and one to go. And Paulinho's you're one to go. And I think he's a player with certain limitations, but his failure at Tottenham was because I think coaches didn't understand what it was that he does. The easiest way to destroy someone is to ask to do something that they can't do. And maybe that was his story at Tottenham. I remember speaking to Brazil's coach Chichi a few years ago, and him saying how much he loved Paulinho. And Paulinho, when Chichi took over, there were only 2 changes to the side. One was the centre-forward position, when he gambled with a teenager, Gabriel Jesus, and boy, did that come off. But that was a gamble, and he wasn't sure about it. The other one was bringing Paulinho back. And Paulinho was in China, and everyone thought that was the end of him. You'd never hear of him again. But Chichi worked with him extensively at Corinthians, knows exactly what he can do, loves what he can do, and he's got the best out of this player. I think Chichi is finding the man management side quite hard, because critics of him would call him a snake charmer. He's a little bit like a kind of hip priest. He looks you straight in the eyes, and he captivates people. As a club coach, you've got your group, and that's it. So your task then is to get the best out of your group. As an international coach, especially one of Brazil, the amount of talent at your disposal is huge. So I think he's finding it quite a difficult art to balance the need, on the one hand, to be loyal to the players that he's got, while also promoting competition and keeping everyone sharp. Remember the lesson of 4 years ago, when a year before the World Cup, Scolari, the then Brazil coach, he more or less wrote his Brazil squad in stone, and everyone knew what the side was going to be. Everyone knew what the first 11 was going to be. So Chichi, he wants to avoid that. So he wants to stay loyal to his players while also promoting competition. And I think psychologically, he's finding that quite hard.
Tim, you mentioned about the defensive side. Now, that's the one thing you think, yes, so much attacking talent, but they did concede a few chances against, which was fairly average Russian side, it has to be said, the other night. So is that the worry for Brazil, that, yes, all this attacking talent is there for us all to see, but is the worry for them defensively?
Yeah, I think they've got 2 problems. One, which I don't think they can do a lot about, is the fullbacks. Daniel Alves and Marcelo both are attacking fullbacks who have defensive deficiencies, and also they're attacking, they will leave space behind them. You can't be in 2 places at once, and that will be a problem, I think, especially against sides who can control possession. The other is that Casemiro, the defensive midfielder, is not the quickest, and we saw that, I think, at Wembley against Tottenham, when they were able to isolate him and beat him, and that was happening a few times in the first half. Now, the lineup that you saw against Russia was the more attacking lineup. Against Germany, they will stiffen up. There will be Fernandinho alongside Casemiro, just to give them a little bit more there. And so I think that's how they hope that they can firstly help Casemiro, but also block the attempts from the opposition to get the ball into the space behind Brazil's attacking fullbacks. But that certainly will be an issue in the World Cup.
And what's the word on Neymar, Tim?
I think they're very, very confident that he'll be back and flying. And I don't think it does them any harm whatsoever to have these games without him. Remember, when he played in 14 World Cup qualifiers and picked up 6 yellow cards. He's petulant. He has trouble controlling himself in pressure situations. And that record, 6 yellow cards in 14, you project that into the World Cup, and there's a huge chance of missing a second round or a quarter-final because of accumulation of yellow cards. So no harm at all in having a look at your options without him.
Maybe in part because I was in Brazil for it, but 4 years ago, Neymar felt like an overwhelming presence in that team, and it was all about Neymar, and the television directors could not stop showing repeated replays of Neymar. Everything was about Neymar. Is that likely to be the same to such, I would say, an unhealthy degree this time around?
I think less so. I think that there's more of a team here. There's more of an idea of a team. And the likes of Gabriel Jesus have emerged, and Felipe Coutinho, who took a long time finding his feet at international level, he's emerged. So I think that there's probably a better distribution of attacking talent this time than there was 4 years ago.
And so, in short, we're a fan of Chichi.
Oh, huge, yes. I wonder where he'll go after the World Cup. I know, a lot depends on what happens to Brazil during the tournament. But he's usually said, I suppose one option is to stay on as Brazil coach, but he's usually said that he told me this personally, he said he had no interest in working in another country because he couldn't imagine achieving excellence in a second language. I would imagine that after working with the calibre of these players that he's got with the Brazilian national team, the idea of coming back to Brazilian domestic football would be a huge defeat. You know, you'd imagine that after working with your Neymars and your Gabriel Jesus and your Coutinhos, you're going to want to work with that level of player. It is interesting that in European the European national teams are for rookies or veterans. Now that they're the people who are coaching the national teams in Europe. Brazil have, by popular consensus, the best Brazilian coach. Argentina have, by popular consensus, the best Argentine coach. Uruguay have, by popular consensus, the best Uruguayan coach. That shows you, I think, the importance of national teams in this part of the world. And we'll see if this gives these teams an advantage come the World Cup. You know, if when Brazil are up against a Spain, for example. You know, we'll see if Chichi is a little bit better than Lopetegui on the other side.
Tim, brilliant as ever. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
The following ad for appliances delivered will be attempted using no bad Easter puns. The Easter sale is now on at appliancesdelivered.ie with exceptional offers like up to 25% off washing machines and dishwashers, up to 35% off refrigeration and small appliances, and an exciting up to 50% off cooking appliances with next day delivery nationwide. So if you're looking for cracking deals, then check out the excellent the Easter sale now on at appliancesdelivered.ie. Why pay more?
11 people develop dementia in Ireland every day.
That could be people like our parents, colleagues, friends.
And people like me, who could be someone just like you.
Any one of us can get dementia.
Every one of us can make a difference by understanding more.
It's time to understand together. To stand together with the 500,000 people whose families have been affected by dementia. Visit understandtogether.ie or call 1-800 341 341 from the HSE and our partners.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. Were you impressed with Argentina, Kev?
In spells, I was. I thought the. Of course, we've spoke earlier on, no Messi, you kind of go in there with a different perspective. Di Maria did quite well. Angel Di Maria, he was the most impressive attacker, I thought. Higuain, Tim touched on something there with Higuain, saying about he did okay. I felt he was a bit too loose in possession, actually. I think he was given he carved himself a couple of chances, but he was a bit loose in possession. Caballero did well. He made his debut as well, Willy Caballero for Argentina. I thought Italy were half decent as well, because they had a decent side, but I think when you put Messi into that side and maybe one or two others, you know what you can get, so it's they've got a chance.
It's true what he says about Messi at the 14 World Cup in Brazil. He was just slouching around, and then when he really had to do something, he would do it. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, it was incredible. I was at the Iran game.
Were you? Yeah.
Which must be completely forgotten by anyone who wasn't there, because it was Iran 0, Argentina 1.
I didn't see Argentina at the World Cup at all. I didn't go to any of the games.
Saw a few. Saw them in the semi-final as well. But the Iran game, it was nothing. Like, it was a really turgid, awful game.
Did you go to the World Cup final as well?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. Good man.
And then right at the death, with Maradona in the crowd being the most interesting thing for most of the game.
Yeah.
You guys just watching Maradona for a lot of the game, whipping up a storm. Messi just scored a brilliant goal.
Yeah.
And Carlos Queiroz, who was the Iran manager then, in his press conference, was just talking about how, look, if you have Messi, you're just a better team than the vast majority of teams in the competition. So it really is that simple. And it doesn't seem like Messi is going there tired yet. I mean, we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes, but he does seem to be in really good form.
Yeah, he's in great form, isn't he? He's as good as ever this season.
So if he can maintain that into the summer, then you can build around that.
Yeah. They don't seem to play this similar sort of way, Barca, that they played under Guardiola as well, do they? They don't play that real high press and go at sides that they had even under Luis Enrique as well. So I think he's got more of a looser role within the side now, and I think it probably suits him maybe physically as well ahead of the World Cup,
So I read here from the Telegraph, the Football Association last night planning a review aimed at avoiding England playing Friday night friendlies in stag-do destinations following the trouble that marred their win in Holland. 100 supporters arrested in the build-up to the game on Friday, most of them for throwing beer bottles at police. They were in fairly obnoxious form, a lot of the English fans on Friday, and it's fun. There's plenty of columns today wondering if somehow the Brexit referendum has legitimised a more aggressive kind of nationalism and chest out. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true.
It's the songs that they sing as well, though, Joe, isn't it? You know, it's like
2 World Wars and 1 World Cup.
Yeah,
it's a hell of an achievement. I thought this thing was kind of done. You know, the English hooligan problem. Certainly, I remember France '98 and the water cannons very, very well. They were very vivid images. And then in Euro 2000, it cropped up again. But it did seem for a long time like they had gotten to grips with it. They'd weeded out the real instigators of trouble. And it seemed to blow up again at Euro 2016. Admittedly, Russian hooligans were involved then and kind of almost went after the English as a kind of like a badge of honour to give the English a good hiding. But they were very aggressive, the English fans in Marseille.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of that in Amsterdam as well, where they, not all of them clearly, but they go to cities and try and almost claim a territory aggressively.
Yeah, it is.
Provoke trouble almost.
Yeah.
And then they can almost claim to be the victim.
Aggressive chanting. You saying as well that you see all the pictures now. You see them uploaded on social media straight away. I remember I think it was in Lille or Lens. They're in one of the northern towns in France as well. I was in both those places. Real small, tight, little town. Quite a quaint town actually. And they go there, as you say, and it's that parochialism, isn't it? It's that
aggressive nationalism.
Yeah, it's just.
And then they wonder why the locals might react.
I know.
After hours of singing.
Yeah.
And so they threw bottles at the police in Amsterdam on Friday. And certainly, so it carried on post-Euro 2016. In Dortmund 12 months ago for the England-Germany match, they booed the German national anthem. They were singing the World War, the German bomber song. I'm not too sure what it is. I'll have to double check it. But certainly, whatever song from, it's World War II related, clearly.
Yeah.
And that kind of was touched upon. So it seems like it's kind of back here. Like there's an element here which is bubbling away and getting to games again, and we have Russia on the horizon.
Yeah, I know. That is the worry, I think, for any fans. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some Irish supporters that want to go over just to take in some games when they get over there, and it is a worry. It is a worry, I think, when you go in there and you're seeing what happened certainly at 2016 in the Euros in 2016, knowing full well that they're certainly expected to. I mean, I was reading reports this week that the Russian authorities are going to clamp down on this big style. There's no room for it at all. So if they see any of their own supporters, any of the opposition supporters starting trouble, you're going away. You're getting banged up. So that's got to be the fear, I think, with a lot of supporters. But it is a worry given what has happened and what they said. This element is just there now around these friendlies. Who did England play in? What was the other friendly they had? They had a friendly quite recently as well. There was a little bit of trouble more in that game as well, and it's just, as you say, it's just sparking up again, and it's not great. It isn't great at all.
And I would presume 10 German bombers is the song, by the way, I'm thinking of. Effectively along the lines of 10 German bombers in the air, and then one by one they're shot down. You sing verses with each one shot down. So needless to say, singing that in Dortmund after you've booed the German national anthem is provocation enough.
Yeah.
That's not really, a brave new world.
Exactly.
I would presume as well plenty of Russian hooligans are eyeing this up and thinking, lovely.
It's a chance for them, isn't it? That's what they think, yeah.
So there's that, and I mean it will be an interesting discussion actually. We might do it at some point if you can link it into Brexit and the general air of nationalism in parts of the country, or if it's just a coincidence. But it certainly felt like it had been under control for the guts of the last decade. But it's there
was a scheme that the FA put in place, wasn't there? I think you had to apply for tickets. Your passport had to be, monitored. There was however they did it, it was certainly a good way. And as you say there now, it's just when you start to see the pictures that you've seen around the canals in Amsterdam, it was just like, come on, lads, come on.
Yeah, bit grim. So Paul Pogba.
Yeah, we go back to your man again, don't we? Well, the reports today, Charlie Rusho in the Indo was reporting today that he will be sold. The relationship between him and Mourinho has broken down, irreparable. Pogba's he only contacts or speaks to the staff through the assistant. This is what's been reported, and Mino Raiola, his agent, is actively seeking a club for him. That's his. I mean.
So Pogba doesn't speak directly to Mourinho.
To Mourinho, no. They've fallen out. There's no chance of reconciliation. It's madness. I mean, we've probably seen this happening over the last month or two, haven't we? Particularly when Mourinho left him out, when he's had a few little snipes at him. big games as well, of course, that he's left him out of, and it's not surprising. Even Didier Deschamps, was it Friday? But they played Friday, so it would have been on the Tuesday, Wednesday when he went and met up with the French squad, saying this is a problem for him. He's got to be low on confidence. It was obviously he'd had a conversation with Pogba, and there was a message that was coming out from Deschamps there that most definitely things are not right, and he won't be happy if he continues to play the role that he's playing now, considering that, again, United's most expensive signing. And Mino Raiola will see, his agent, see if that does come about over the summertime, because I think we'd spoken about it recently as well, saying it looks to me like it's either going to be Pogba or Mourinho. Yeah. Mourinho signed the contract. I think Rory Smith was talking about it when he was on with us as well the other week. With Mourinho signing that contract, it looks likely that it will be Pogba that could be making way.
How big a loss is Pogba for Manchester United?
Well, it doesn't seem a big loss at the moment because he hasn't really been producing, has he? And I think across he was playing well early on this season. He was, when I'd seen him in some of the early games this year. But I think overall, his time at Man United, or going back to Man United, he hasn't produced. He hasn't been consistent enough, and I think that is the problem with him. And when we've had John Giles on, John wouldn't be his biggest fan. Graham Souness, when we spoke to him about him as well, wouldn't be his biggest fan. They're the sort of midfielders that you'd look up to, and you'd think they were the best of their era in many respects. So it's one of those things. You asking the question there, maybe if you ask those two lads, they'd be saying no, it's no big loss at all. I think he does bring a certain spark to United when he plays. I think United don't have any sort of creativity, any sort of a man that can do something off the cuff. I don't think they have that really in the side. Rashford to an extent does have that within him, but Pogba does bring that little bit of madness to a game.
When he can swat someone aside or beat a few men or do something a bit different, because otherwise you're left with Sevilla at home.
I know,
which was grim. And then you were looking into this Niall Quinn story. So is Niall Quinn going back in at Sunderland, or what are the reports?
Yeah, well, Sky Sports reporting that Niall will not be going back in to the club. He doesn't want to undertake the role that he's had in the past. But
because I saw headlines suggesting he was almost going back in as chairman.
Yeah. I believe it's an Irish consortium that's approached Niall to try to go and broker some deal. This is what Sky Sports are reporting. They actually report that 3 consortiums have approached Niall. The one that's been reported today, certainly on Sky Sports, was saying it's an Irish consortium that are planning another Sunderland bid.
I'm sure Ellis Short is ready to get rid of that club.
Well, yeah, I mean, he says he'll let it go for £1. I think that's what he's saying. But the club's 100 million in debt, so you'll have to obviously take over the debt to buy the club. Of course, the position they're in on the pitch, bottom of the Championship, heading for League One. Yeah. It's not necessarily the most appealing club at the moment, is it?
It's incredible to think they're down to League One now. It's also amazing how history repeats. So an Irish consortium potentially headed up by Niall Quinn,
possibly
with Roy Keane as manager.
Imagine, like the good old days, isn't it?
He'll have thousands flying out to watch Sunderland every week.
Well, he would, yeah. I remember it when you used to go to games and you'd see all the Sunderland, the Irish Sunderland contingent going over, yeah.
And so it seems like Quinn is just heading up the consortium.
That's the way it seems. That's the way it seems, yeah.
Remain in Ireland.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it does seem. I've not spoken to Niall on this. It's just when Sky Sports have got it, you would have thought they've got close links with Niall. I'd say that's fairly accurate how Sky Sports are actually reporting this year.
Okay. Somebody says that we finish off the chat in Ireland, Jack in Kildare. Can we please, Pete and young lad Jack in Kildare rather, can we please go back to the heroic defeats of old, where we're, as in Ireland, are at least putting it up to teams and having a go, rather than trying to squeak out results by playing this ultra-conservative football, says Pete and the young lad Jack in Kildare. That's the wish, Kev. That's what the people want.
Well, I think, yeah, and it is a great argument. I think that game the other night, I think Dave McIntyre was on off the ball on Saturday saying...
I didn't hear him. How angry was he?
He was kind of Dave was probably taking your stance on it.
Beaten down.
Oh yeah, but Dave was maybe going on the fact is, look, if we come away from that game against Turkey, get beat 4-0, and we've had a go and there's a few sparks in the match, he would have taken it. I wouldn't buy that.
4-0, I don't know.
No, I know. I wouldn't buy that to an extent. But I know what he's trying to say from it, really. If we lose the game like we did and there's been nothing in the match, there's nothing in the match. That's the thing. So there's part of me what would have liked us just to see, look, be a bit more risky than that. Take a bit of risky football. Let's go and see what these young lads can actually do. Let's go and see what these inexperienced lads can go and try to produce, and go and try and maybe show your club form and take it onto the international scene. But it just didn't really materialise.
No, it sure didn't. So we'll keep an eye on some of the friendlies tomorrow. Argentina against Spain will be an interesting one. Brazil against Germany. OTBAM is live tomorrow from 7:45 on Facebook, YouTube and Periscope. Owen and Ger will be talking to the chief sports reporter for the Times, Martin Ziegler, and Johnny Ward will be in as well. Tomorrow night we'll look back at the legendary life of sports broadcasting legend Howard Cosell, who would have been 100 years old this week, and we will be talking hopefully to some of the winning members of the Kula team as well. Earlier tonight we asked you to name the winner of last year's US Masters. The answer of course is
US Masters last year?
Yeah.
Sergio?
Yeah. So congratulations to John McGillicuddy and to Shay Weirity. Shay Weirity and John McGillicuddy. Lads, you have both won a 2-ball each for our Off the Ball Golf Weekly preview. In fact, let's switch that. It's the Golf Weekly Off the Ball Masters preview at Lutcher St Castle the day before the Masters. So lads, you're going to need to get off work or whatever you're doing that day for about midday to play the golf, and then stick around for food, and we'll preview the Masters that evening. It's always a really good show. If you missed out tonight, another chance to win tomorrow. Tom Dunn is on the way next. We'll see you tomorrow.